Hi, you're listening to Book Chat with author Vivian E. Moore.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further. Here is your host.
Hello and welcome to Book Chat. I am your host, author Vivian E. Moore. Hope everyone is having a great day. I hope you had a great week. All right, so we have a lot of material to get to today in 15 minutes, so I am not going to delay. We're going to go ahead and get started right this moment. All right, so the title of today's show is Fact or Fiction, and the topic is Writing Myths and Truths. All right, so are you familiar with the phrase, people will believe a lie before the truth can put on his shoes? If only the truth wore shoes. And even if that was possible, okay? But anyway, we get it. We understand, that people are, they're more apt to believe a lie before they'll believe the truth anyway. It's sad, but true. But anyway, we're going to sort of address that today. Anyway, and it's why I want to put fact or fiction to the test, okay? As writers, most stories, they are constructed mostly of fiction. But sometimes there's a little truth in the mix. However, I want to dive a little deeper into writing myths and truths, okay? Maybe some of the things you've heard along the way, maybe they hold no substance and they may be confusing to some new authors. So that's another reason why I want to sort of touch on that today. So what I like to do is to just break down a few of these misconceptions. And because we all know that writing is hard enough, without correct punctuation and other grammatical fallacies to deal with. Okay, so that's enough within itself. So why do we need to add more obstacles to the list? Well, to help me and you map this journey, I've used my best friend, Google, to clarify any confusion, okay? So where I went today was https:// just in case you want to jot this down, storyshoutnews.com/10 common misconceptions in writing, okay? So you can go to that website and you can look it up for yourself, but I'm using that today. And this article was written by Gwen Doria. So she gets all the credit for today's information. But anyway, she's going to give us the breakdown of things we thought were true, but aren't. Okay. So number one is writers must always write an original piece. So how many times have you heard that? Okay. So maybe you thought that your writing was original because you were the one writing it. But what she says is that is the main goal, to come up with original content. Writing original content, though, doesn't mean you come up with something new. You need to take old concepts and create new ways to put them together. Well, I've always said this, all stories are like, they all pretty much have the same premise, but, you just have to, you have to write that story in a different way that, that a reader has never heard it before. So she's right about that. And I agree. So there we go. That is one truth. That is one myth that has been uncovered. All right. So, but good writing is essentially writing. And she quoted Roald. His name is Roald. And I don't know how you pronounce that. But anyway, the last name is Dahl, and that's Dahl. Okay. So number two is writing is difficult. All right, well, this is neither true nor false, and I agree with this too. Being difficult doesn't have anything to do with writing per se. It depends on the writer's mindset. If a writer thinks it's difficult, then it's difficult. And she says, this is a quote from her. She says, I get a lot of letters from people. They say, I want to be a writer. What should I do? I tell them to stop writing to me and get on with it. And that was from Ruth Rendell. So she quoted someone else. That was from Ruth Rendell. All right. So number 3 is writing is a glamorous endeavor. Hollywood movies depict the writer's life as glamorous. Maybe for some, but that is not the point. Writing is all about unglamorous hard work. Now here's another quote. There is nothing to writing. All you do is sit down at a typewriter and bleed. And that was from Ernest Hemingway. Now, I agree with that and I don't agree with that. As far as it being glamorous, I definitely don't agree with that. Because we do see depictions on television where you see, writers and everything is just so stylized to the max, and so it gives you that idea that every time you sit down to write, this is what it's like, but it's not. And I'll tell you that from my own point of view, it's not. I have good days, I have bad days. Sometimes the information flows and sometimes it don't. So, you do get writer's block. But when I get writer's block, what I do is instead of staying on that one project, I'll go on and do something else. Maybe I don't have writer's block by new ideas, so I start them. That's what I do. I start new projects, while I'm trying to finish up another one. And then once I'm past that writer's block, I go back to the original project and get it done. So that's what I do. So I don't agree with writing being glamorous at all. So she's, I agree with her on that as well. All right. So number 4 is writing is only for introverts. And I disagree with that already before we even get to hear what she says. Okay. So although some writers are, writing is not exclusively for introverts. Writing is associated with introverts because writers keep their focus by being in solitude. But really, any personality type can be a writer. And I agree with that because that is the truth. I've met some very outgoing people with extroverts, okay? And, and they are wonderful writers. So, that's just another misconception. So, but anyway, here's another quote. It says, writing is utter solitude, the descent into the cold abyss of oneself. And that's from Franz Kafka. Never heard of this person before, but I'm sure they're pretty famous. Okay. All right. So number 5 is great writers are born, not made. Well, I don't necessarily agree with that either. Okay. So this will lead us to the classic nature versus nurture debate, which is a long topic, so let's not delve into that. One thing is for sure, a writer should possess a set of innate traits, refined and perfected over time with practice and experience, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. With any skill, you have to have practice, you have to have learning. You have teachers, they have a natural born inclination to be a teacher. That's their desire. It's in them. They were born that way. But to live that dream to the fullest, they have to get the proper training in order to instruct, So that's the same thing with a writer. We have to do the same thing. We have to gather information in order to be the best that we can be. So I totally agree with her explanation of that, of great writers are born and not made. I think it's a little of both. So that's my take on that. On number 5, I think it's a little of both. All right. So this is another quote. This is from Alexander Chi, and she says, "Writers aren't born; they've made from practice, reading, and a lot of caffeine." Okay, to me, she was being sarcastic, or he, because I don't know if Alexander is a female or male, but I think that was just a bit of sarcasm in that. Okay. All right. So number 6 is writing requires a lot of time. Well, she says not necessarily. If you want to save time writing, have a writing schedule. If you have some roadblocks, attend some writing classes that will help you harness your skills and save time. All right, so this is what J.K. Rowling, and we all know who she is, okay? She wrote the, see, I'm going to embarrass myself. She wrote the Hogwarts and all that stuff. What is the name of that series? Okay, y'all know what it is, all right? So anyway, we all know who J.K. Rowling is, and we know the series that she wrote, even if I can't think of it right now. Okay, so anyway, be ruthless about protecting writing days, i.e. do not cave into endless requests to have essential and long overdue meetings on those days. Okay, well, this is my take on writing requires a lot of time. I mean, you can have days to where you may write maybe a couple of hours, or, or maybe during the week, you may have a set amount of time that you write. But if you think of the overall project, because they're just saying writing they don't agree. She don't necessarily agree with writing requires a lot of time. But if you're writing a novel, that does require time, because, great novels, all novels are not written in a weekend. Some, it's possible, but it takes some months, because there's a long process to the finished project. So I don't necessarily agree with that. So, that's a fact of fiction that could go either way. But I'm just saying that, to me, that's not a fact. That may be sort of fictional. All right. But anyway, number 7 is writing is a science. So she says that this is not true. So let's see why she says it's not true. She says there is no specific writing process that should be strictly followed. There are best practices to keep in mind, though. And Mary Heaton Vorse says, this is a quote from her: "The art of writing is the art of applying the seat of the pants to the seat of the chair." That's what she says. Okay, well, I agree with Miss Vorse on that, but I do want to say more about writing as a science. And I do agree that it's not true. Writing is not a science. Everybody has their own way of doing things. And, and you don't have to adhere to anyone else's style of writing or their process, because everyone has a way of doing everything. You go into the kitchen and cook, and I'm just going to compare myself to my mother. God bless and rest her soul. But, she would go in to cook, and a lot of things I did learn from her. So I have to say that straight off the bat. A lot of things I did learn from her, the process. Hold on just one second. I need to take a sip of water. I'm getting dry. Okay, I'm better. All right. So, my mother would never go into the kitchen and cook over a dirty kitchen. That's the first thing she always said. You need to make sure this kitchen is clean before you cook a meal. And I agree with that. So I still do that to this day. But as far as the process of other things, the way she used to cook meals, prepare meals, or whatever, I have my own style. Some of the things I've duplicated or replicated from her. Certain dishes that I make, they are her recipes, but I put my own spin on them. So yeah, I do agree with her when she says writing is not a science. That's not true. So we know that is fiction. All right. So number 8, writers are always clear about what they will write. Writing is a discovery process. No writer ever published the first draft of their writing. It is a series of hits and misses. And this is what Robert has to say about that. Writing is an incessant process of discovery, and that is a fact. That's very true. Because we aren't always clear about what we want to write about. You may start out with an idea, because I've started a lot of stories. Now, just let me clarify. Okay. On paper, I may not be clear about what I want to write about. But when I actually sit down to write, I know what I want to write about. I know what the story is going to entail, because I've written. I don't do flow charts, but I do take notes. I write down notes, and I don't always get scenes in any particular order. I mean, I may visualize a scene, and it's for something that's, maybe later on in the later chapters, of the book. But no, I don't have a clear about what I want to write out until I actually sit down to do it. And then that's when my mind is clear. I know I have a direction of where the story needs to go, or where I want it to go. So that can be fact or fiction depending on the person. Okay. All right. So number 9 is good writing is about the use of fancy words. Effective writing must be able to touch the senses of its readers. It should be understood easily, so fancy words are not necessary. And this is from C.S. Lewis. All right, so we know that he wrote the Lord of the Rings series. I did remember that one. Okay, so don't use words too big for the subject. Don't say infinitely when you mean very. Otherwise, you'll have no word left when you want to talk about something really infinite. Okay, so we went over this last week. Okay, when we were talking about using, just saying what you mean. And you don't have to, use these great big words to say the same thing in a more simple fashion. Okay. So I agree with that wholeheartedly. So that is definitely fiction. All right. All right. So number 10 is writers don't need professional relationships. It doesn't end when a writer finishes writing a piece. A writer needs to network with like-minded individuals who can either help them learn or get published on various channels. So this is from Joyce Maynard. She says, "It troubles me that people speak about writing for money as ugly and distasteful." And I agree with that. You do need professional relationships. This is one reason why I do this show on a weekly basis, because I want to help other writers that are out there, other authors that are out there, to give you this information so you'll have it, and it's needful information, and it's good to be in contact with other writers and authors too, because you learn a lot of different things. You have that network, and a lot of people you can't have discussions with, when you're talking about writing, because if you're outside of that realm, you're not going to get it. I mean, you can read a million books, but writers have like that language that is between them that sometimes only they understand. So it helps to be able to communicate with other artists like you, and it's needed, and sometimes when you talk with like-minded people. And that's across the board. A lot of times you really can't have a conversation with someone who has no idea what you're talking about, or let's just say religion. Okay, so if you have someone that is deeply religious versus a person who could care less about religion, well, what kind of conversation can you have that's not going to lead to an argument? Okay, so that's the point. And and I don't know how that quote goes along with writers don't need professional relationships. I really don't. But I do agree with Joyce Maynard when she says that, it troubles me that people speak writing for money as ugly and distasteful. And it's not, because if that's your career, you want to make money from that career. I mean, that just makes sense to me. So I agree with what she said, but there was really no explanation as far as what Doria said about need professional relationships. Okay, so we know that, yes, I think that you do need professional relationships with other writers, because you can't treat yourself like a closed fist, because if it's closed, nothing can get in, nothing can get out. So you want to be open to that. You want to be receptive to listening to other points of view, because it can help you out in the long run if you just do that, because not everyone don't know everything. Okay, and I'm the first one to say that there's a lot of things I still don't know, but what I do know, I share. So you have to keep the network open. All right. Well, so she says, what other common misconceptions about writing have you heard of? And so she says to tweet us and let us know. So I gave you her website, which was https://storyshopnews.com/10 common misconceptions writing / All right. And again, this was written by Gwen Doria, so you can go to her website and look at some of her further writings if you wish. All right, but that's going to conclude the show on that fact or fiction. Okay, so and I hope that what Gwen said has cleared up any lingering questions of fact or fiction for you, and I hope you found her information helpful. I hope you found this show helpful. So to help you to continue to support Book Chat with Author Vivian E. Moore, I want to make sure I give you these URLs so you can stay in contact with the show and what we're talking about on a weekly basis, okay? So the first one, of course, is to Spreaker, and that URL is https://www.spreaker.com/user/author Vivian E. Moore. You can Facebook me, like me, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and also you can check out my website. That is at https://www.authorvivianemore.com or either authorehshepard.com. Same person, just two different headings, okay? And you can also check out my blog if you want. That is at https://vivianemore.blogspot.com. And also to help keep you, up on the latest info, if you haven't downloaded the Speaker app on your phone, you can listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Castbox, Deezer. That's two different ones. Castbox and Deezer are two different ones. Podcast Addict, Podchaser, YouTube, SoundCloud, JioSaven, Audible.com, of course, Verbal, which is spelled VURBL, and Luminary, okay? And there may be some other ones out there that I'm not aware of just right now, but I do research it every once in a while if I don't get an email alerting me that, that my show has been picked up, by another platform. So, but like I said, I do research it from time to time to see what's new out there so I can share it with you. But I enjoyed today's show, and I hope you did too. And of course, tomorrow is Worship Day. It is the last date of Black History Month, okay? And, we did things a little bit differently this year because, of course, we weren't inside of the physical building. And we did get to, do a little trivia on Black History Month at the beginning of it, even if we didn't do it each and every single week. And if we were in the church building, we celebrate Black History Month every single day and every single week. So we do, at our church, we have different meals on each Sunday that represents something about Black History Month. So we enjoy that so very much. Not so much the extra pounds we pick up, as a result of doing that, but still, it's great fun, and it's a great way for us to stay in touch with each other, to fellowship, and, while we're learning about our culture, because that's important. To me, it's important to my children and to my grandchildren, because you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you came from. Okay. So someone else probably said that. They probably did, but I'm saying it again because it's true. All right. But anyway, tomorrow is Worship Day. And so I hope you are prepared to either go to a building, but be safe about it. If you're still doing it from home, over live, events over Facebook, or however you're getting it, and also if you're doing it over the phone like we are, we do it every single Sunday over the phone. Just be sure to share those numbers with your neighbors and your friends and family members, and because everybody needs to hear a word. We live in perilous times, and we need some good news. We definitely need some good news. And let the kids listen in too, because they're stressed about, some kids are still being homeschooled, so to speak. And then, others, I think my granddaughter is attending school in the physical building for right now. But the other grandkids are learning from home, or remote. And they're learning, but that can be stressful for them, and I know it's stressful for the parents. So we want to make sure that we let kids listen in too, because they need to hear calming words also. And folks, I say this every single week, and I can't say it enough. Be sure to tell people that you love them, because tomorrow is not promised. Today may be the only chance you get to say that. So I love you. I hope you love me back. And until the next time you hear my voice, God bless you and goodbye.
Loved what you've heard on this week's episode? Well, the answer is simple.
It would mean the world to us if you could head over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review and feedback. Spreading the word really is the best way to grow our podcast and achieve even greater things. Thank you.